The night lights of Allen Avenue shimmered like broken dreams. Salt Champagne stood by the roadside, her gold wig glowing under the streetlights. Men came and went, cars stopped and sped off, but behind her confident smile hid a woman tired of pretending. Lagos never slept, and neither did her pain. Everyone on Allen called her Champagne because she was bubbly even when her heart was shattered. She joked with drivers, danced in the rain, and never showed weakness. But every night, she went home to a small room behind a bar, whispering prayers she wasn't sure God still heard. Her closest friends, Tinu, Bimp, and Ngozi, each carried their own scars. They laughed together, shared cheap food, and promised to quit someday. But Lagos doesn't let go easily. The streets had a way of keeping souls trapped like flies in honey. For weeks, Sod noticed a red Range Rover that parked across the road. The man inside never called any girl, just watched quietly. His eyes met hers once, and though he said nothing, something about him made her heart uneasy. That night, the wind was wild, and the street unusually empty. As Sod waited, she heard gunshots, short, sharp, terrifying. A car had been ambushed nearby, and men with guns shouted for wallets and phones. Soda's instinct screamed to hide, but her legs moved toward the sound. She saw the man from the red car bleeding on the ground. Without thinking, she threw a bottle that distracted the robbers long enough for him to crawl away. She dragged him behind a kiosk, pressed her scarf to his wound, and whispered, "Please don't die." He looked at her and said, "You're an angel." Then he fainted. Sod watched as passers-by rushed to help, then slipped away before the police came. But his face, his calm eyes, stayed in her mind all night. For the first time in years, she felt something she thought was dead, compassion mixed with hope. By morning, the street buzzed with news of the attack. Some girls laughed, saying the rich man would never remember a street girl. But Sod sat quietly, holding the man's wristwatch she had picked up when she helped him. It was engraved, T.W. Toby Williams. A sudden raid scattered the girls that night. Policemen shouted, slapped, and dragged some of them into their van. Sod barely escaped, losing her bag, her money, and her diary. She found herself alone under a bridge, crying in the dark. In the following days, she couldn't shake the thought of Toby Williams. She began to wander around the general hospital, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Maybe it was madness, maybe destiny, but she knew she had to see him again. Disguised as a cleaner, Sod finally saw him again, alive, with his arm bandaged. He didn't recognize her at first, but when she spoke, his eyes widened. "It's you," he whispered. She smiled shyly. "Just wanted to know you're okay." Toby insisted on giving her money, but she refused. "I didn't help you for money," she said softly. For a moment, the wealthy heir to a billion-dollar empire saw something he'd never seen, humility from the streets. Days later, he found her at the bus stop, still in her cleaner's uniform. He invited her to dinner. She hesitated, ashamed of her background, but curiosity won. That night, she entered a world of chandeliers and quiet music for the first time. Sod sat stiffly, unsure how to hold the cutlery. Toby noticed and gently helped her, making her laugh. For the first time, she didn't feel like champagne. She felt like Sod, the girl she had lost years ago. Toby's friends mocked him for dining with a street girl. One even recorded them secretly and posted online, calling her Allen Avenue's first lady. The video spread fast, humiliating her, but Toby didn't care. "Let them talk," he said. That night, rain poured as they sat in his car by the lagoon. She told him everything, her childhood, poverty, and shame. Instead of disgust, he said, "You're stronger than anyone I know." Sod cried for the first time in years. Toby offered her a job at one of his father's hotels as a cleaner. "It's not pity," he said. "It's a new beginning." She accepted. The next morning, she stood in a hotel uniform, terrified but determined. Sod worked harder than everyone. Guests loved her humility. She saved money, avoided gossip, and joined a small church near her hostel. Slowly, she began to smile again, not the fake kind, but the real one. A jealous manager named Cynthia discovered Sod's past from old social media pictures. She printed them and plotted her downfall. "Let's see if a street girl can survive this palace," Cynthia whispered. One morning, everyone in the hotel received a message, photos of Sod in her old life. Guests whispered, staff laughed, and the HR manager called her in. Within hours, she was fired. Her dreams collapsed once again. Toby's father called her a disgrace. "She's not one of us," he shouted. Toby defended her, but the family forbade him from seeing her again. She left the mansion in tears, clutching only her diary. With nowhere to go, Sod returned to Allen Avenue, not to sell herself, but to find comfort in familiar faces. The street lights still blinked, but now, they only reminded her of who she used to be. One night, she met a street pastor who handed her a small Bible. "God doesn't choose the perfect," he said, "He perfects the chosen." Those words struck deep. Sod went home, opened the Bible, and wept. She wrote a heartfelt letter, "If you still see me, change my story." She left it under her pillow and fell asleep crying. The next day, she found an envelope under her door from Toby. Toby had searched everywhere for her. He told her he was ready to fight his father, his friends, anyone, for her. "I just need you to believe in yourself," he said. And for the first time, she did. With his help, she enrolled in a business school. She studied late into the night, working part-time to pay her share. Her teachers admired her focus, a street girl with a mind sharper than gold. Sod began selling food to students, using the recipes she learned from her mother. Soon, her Soda's Kitchen stall became famous for its jollof rice and kindness. Word spread of the ex-prostitute turned entrepreneur. Churches invited her to share her story. Newspapers wrote headlines like, "From Allen Avenue to Inspiration." She smiled, but stayed humble. Cynthia, the former manager, saw her success on TV and grew envious. She tried again to drag her name through mud, but this time, Sod had truth and faith on her side. Toby took her to the same lagoon where they once cried. He knelt with a ring. "You changed my world, Sod. Now let me give you mine." She said yes, through tears of redemption. Sod walked slowly down Allen Avenue one Sunday afternoon. During a televised interview, the host asked, "If you could speak to your younger self, what would you say?" Sod smiled gently and replied, "You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become." The audience gave her a standing ovation. Her old friend Tinu finally joined the foundation. Sod helped her start a tailoring business. During the opening, Tinu hugged her tightly. "If you hadn't come back that day," she said, "I'd still be lost." Both women cried the kind of tears that heal. Sod received an invitation to speak at a women's conference in Geneva. Standing on that grand stage, dressed in a white African gown with gold embroidery, she told the world, "I was once called a prostitute, now I'm called a purpose." The hall erupted with applause. Upon returning to Lagos, she visited her old street alone one evening. The lights, the noise, the shadows, everything was the same, yet she was completely different. She placed flowers on the spot where she once stood and whispered, "Thank you, Allen Avenue. You taught me strength." Years later, her daughter asked, "Mama, were you really poor before Daddy?" Sod smiled. "I wasn't poor," she said. "I was preparing." She looked out the window of their new home overlooking the city and whispered a final prayer, one of gratitude, not for money or fame, but for grace. Sod Champagne's journey became a symbol of second chances, proof that no one is too lost to be found, and no past is too dirty for grace to rewrite.